consciousness, the final frontier. These are the voyages into the universe between your ears. Our mission: to explore collective wisdom, seek out amazing secrets, and spread the message of personal potential.
Picture of what was going on, or a snapshot video, or a funny link that they posted. All these different things are influencing us more now than they ever have. And that definitely brings a mindset too. I mean, like, I didn't even want to touch on this subject, but like the massive amount of school shootings that have been happening over the last, like, let's say 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, I remember being in middle school when Columbine happened. And like, we got really scared. I remember even at the end of that year, they said, okay, for the last day of school, everybody's bringing in like a plastic bag to show their lunch. Like, they were checking everybody's lunches. And that's how crazy it got. Because we don't know where these people are eventually like going off in regards to like a person that's bullying them, or something that their friends sent them through like some sort of link, or like how they're being perceived from other people based upon their social media. I mean, we hear about cyberbullying all the time. I mean, to me, like, with all due respect to the people who have been cyberbullied or been victims of that, I don't believe that it's a right thing to do. But at the same time, like, why can't you just like click off your phone or click off your computer?
Mm-hmm.
Like, go dark. Like, go off.
Bullying has always existed, and it's always going to exist.
Exactly.
Can't legislate it out.
You're gonna find different mediums for it.
It doesn't exist only in humans, right? It exists in the animal kingdom as a natural part of nature.
Right.
The weak get picked on.
Exactly.
And sometimes until they're dead. And you know, we're like the one species that has the capacity to look at that in a more global way,
right,
objective way, right? And so we, you know,
yeah,
think something about it. But
yeah,
it's not something that's going to go away.
It's true. And like, I mean, like, I'll be honest, I was picked on in school, but I mean, like, it was one of those things that toughened me up and said, like, okay, well, I got to do something about this or else it's going to keep happening. And you can either accept your position in life, or you can go about like how your life currently is.
Yeah.
And sometimes like it fits you. Sometimes you want to ask for more. And there's plenty of people out there who always want more. And like, that's what everybody's striving for now in like the kind of day and age we live in, with social media being like that main carrier medium to get your popularity out and get your message across, because that's how like our kind of social status is right now.
Yeah.
Like, have you guys seen the show Black Mirror at all?
I haven't. No.
You haven't? Okay, so it's kind of like a futuristic Twilight Zone, like a futurist Twilight Zone. And there's one episode where there's a woman who, everything that's based on your social media ranking is like based on like a 5-star ranking.
I did see that.
You did see this one. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And,
So you know exactly what I'm talking about. So everything that she goes to buy, or everything she wants to put like a loan down on, or how she's being perceived by other people, is going to be seen by like what her ranking is. And then in contrast to like her brother, who just doesn't care. And it's just like, hey, look, I'm going to do my own thing anyways. People are going to accept me for who I am or who I'm not. And our society is very much scarily heading towards that direction.
Yeah, and even keeping her job, right, had to do with her rank. And
right.
Sitting across the office, just, you know, oh, no, I don't like them today. They're downgrading her as she's sitting there, and she's watching her, like, her whole potential for a future just disappear in front of her eyes, and she hasn't done anything. Yeah, that was interesting.
Never had anything like that before, ever. It was always our reputation, what we could find in regards to print media, or like say somebody did something on TV. I mean, like, imagine like what it would be like today if like the Monica Lewinsky Bill Clinton affair was going on. I mean, that would be like nonstop, and it was nonstop back in the 90s.
Yeah.
Today would be like even more ridiculous, but at the same time, I think our attention span's like that of a goldfish that go away.
It's probably doing a disservice to goldfish.
We can assume that they could just unplug and not participate in this, but for the generation up like after the millennials, they don't know the world of being unplugged. So
you know what? I was doing some research on this stuff this morning, and it's an addiction that happens. So the fight or flight chemicals are designed to give us this extra boost, and it's like a Red Bull that's supposed to last a few seconds and let us get out of danger, and then should go away, right? And with animals, that happens, and the zebra goes back to grazing after it avoided the crocodile, right? But humans don't do that. We go back for more, and we go back and we poke the bear and stuff, and TV news plays on that. Yes. And there's an addiction that comes out of those stress chemicals, the stress hormones that get released, and so we want more. We need that kind of that buzz, and we keep going back, and we get locked into that doom and gloom crap. And the social media stuff, it's a slightly different set of chemicals, but it's the same effect. People go back. You remember when they made a freaking movie out of it. You got mail. Right. That AOL, that ding, was Pavlov's bell for people. Oh my God, somebody likes me.
It's a conditioned response.
Yes, and that's what social media is today.
Absolutely.
That whole excitement about email has kind of gone away, but it's replaced now by Facebook and Twitter and MySpace as it was, and all those that stuff. And so now they're attached to these phones.
Yeah.
And if they put it down, they can't get their fix.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
I've seen too many patients who are like teens right now coming in with like this kind of posture too.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh boy, like you've seen that like evolutionary chart of like the man who like walked, like finally stood up at Homo sapien. Like we're gradually starting to get back down to that, and this is causing most of that.
I've been wondering how long that was going to take. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do tell patients, I'm just like, hey, look, ow, like stop. As bad? No. Okay, don't do that. So it's just little things here and there, like put your elbows up on a desk just like this if you need to. I mean, you're still going to get the mental part, but at least the structural aspect we can work on.
Right.
That's the part we can always talk about later on, and like what you're actually doing. But that's going to be like our blueprint for like how people are going to view us. I mean, if you think about it, like I wonder about like my last days on the planet regarding like how the world is going to be, because the way my grandparents and my parents grew up was very, very different. And it didn't have as much like rapid change back in their day that it does with people that I'm dealing with. I mean, like I grew up like having a rotary phone, like in our house. So I remember just like, oh man, they got a 0. So like I just remember like having to call people, and then
your finger slips out of that dial, man, and it misdials. You got to start over. No.
Yeah, then they added
the
terrible code, and it was all a mess. And I just remember like being with that, and like my generation was the last generation to really understand that gradual change between where everything was analog going to digital, or whether everything was like offline now going to online. And I just wonder about like my last days where I'm going to be of like the baby boomer generation, like then. And I'm just wondering, it's just like, it's like he did well. He shared a picture of a cat. Like, I really hope that's not going to be my legacy at the end. I mean, when I have social media now, I try and use it as like an educational type thing. So people can look at that and be like, oh yeah, that's a good meme. Like that makes sense for me to like stand straight up. Oh yeah, I can do this exercise. Oh yeah, I can do like this ball rolling to work out like the arch support in my foot so I can like relax a little bit more. So like I look to see how many people are doing like just different selfies and like doing ridiculous like party scenes and like showing how their life is amazing on Facebook or Instagram. But I just really wonder, like in the next 50 years, like what's going to be the perception that we're going to have of people and how we look back at their legacy.
It's going to be amazing to see. Yeah.
So many different celebrities and how they actually had certain things that we're now finding out about now because we have this free exchange of communication a lot more.
Yeah. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I don't know if I'll be around to see some of the stuff that could happen. I mean, they're already working on a human connection to the cloud, right? Where you're going to be able to download stuff into your head, just like the Matrix, Oh, I need the program for how to fly a helicopter. Okay, here you go.
Yeah.
Now I can fly a helicopter.
Yeah.
You're already working on this connection.
There was a movie about that actually with Johnny Depp. It was called Transcendence.
Okay,
Mhm.
but I
Big film.
can
Check it out.
see that expanding. You know what? Once that exists and that becomes a common thing, people are going to hack that. Right? There's nothing is unhackable. They will hack that, and they will be able to get into your head and my head, and and put stuff in there, and you'll have the Manchurian Candidate stuff, and it will happen.
It doesn't have to be so difficult. They already hacked into our brains.
Yeah, but this will be like right now.
Right, and that's
This will be much simpler.
That's
Instead
kind
of
of
taking
artificial intelligence if you think about it too.
Yeah.
Because this is not essentially really alive anymore, correct? They're not a human breathing organism, right? They're not organic material. So because of them not like merely being in our plane of existence or what you and I have right now, how can we really classify that as like pure intelligence? That's definitely artificial intelligence of some kind, especially if it's self-aware.
Yeah.
Well, they had a deal where they had I don't know if it was from two different platforms, if it was like Siri and what's Google, Alexa or something, but there were two of these AI systems that they started talking to each other, and they had to disconnect them because they developed their own language that humans couldn't decipher.
Yeah, I heard
And they were
about
like,
that.
and
They started
take
conversing.
Skynet offline right
Yeah.
now because
Thank you.
Arnold's going to be here. Yeah,
Absolutely.
somebody's going to figure that out on their own, and they won't unplug it. And who the hell knows what's going to happen?
I know.
One thing that'd be exciting to see is, you guys familiar with Ray Kurzweil? He's a futurist. He wrote
the
a lot
name.
of books. Yeah, he wrote this interesting book called "The Singularity is Near," and he is claiming that by 2040, humans will become immortal. Basically, the whole thing about we are aging, right? And different organs are aging at different speeds, right? And so soon enough, you'll be able to print organs, like 3D printing from biological substance and from your own cells, so they don't get rejected. And just replace them as body parts. It's just gonna, okay, you come for liver today, yeah.
There's a
How
Netflix,
long you had that one?
Yeah. There's a Netflix series called Altered Carbon.
Oh yeah.
And that's interesting, the concept. Right? They've figured out a way to put your consciousness into this disc and slip your disc into the back of your neck, and that body dies, and as long as you meet certain criteria or whatever, they just take the disc and put it into another, what they call sleeves, I think. Just put it into another body, and you wake up with you're somebody else. You may or may not be happy with it, but you live on. And
It's an exciting thing. If you maintain a healthy body until 2040 around, right? You really have a shot at being immortal.
I'm working on it.
I mean, look how quickly this whole thing accelerating, right? Will you be surprised? We only seen miracles, happening in the last couple of decades here.
Yep.
Right, so yeah.
I'm getting ready to transplant that one guy's brain right over in France or someplace. He's ready to go, and they're just trying to figure out apparently the final little pieces.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, they've been working on this for years now. Some guy who's got some degenerative disease that he has no chance of recovering from, and his life is just every day is worse. And he's like, I got nothing to lose,
We have to definitely ask that fundamental question too. Do you want to live forever?
Then it will become your choice.
I might like to have.
When you want to go, right? You decide. I've had enough.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm getting off.
I've heard a quote from Bill Murray that I love. That he was asked, "What do you think happens after you die?" Like, lots of stuff. You're just not a part of it.
Yeah.
And I kind of take that same perspective. Like when my time is done here, when my my purpose or whatever I was here in this energy form during this lifetime, during this time in the history of the universe, like when I'm done, like I'll gracefully like accept that. And I think we all need to. I mean, there's like you got those like 5 stages that you go through, and then you have, or the 4 stages of grief, but then like you always have that acceptance period at the end. I mean, we have to accept that we're all going to die, but what we don't have to accept is the quality of life we want to live in that lifetime we have. Like that's what I would like to gauge to patients. If I could say like, oh, why do I need chiropractic? Well, how do you want to live? Not how long you want to live, but how do you want to live in that life that you have for yourself?
We had Julius, which is a collective consciousness on the program here. These are 2 individuals, a couple actually, right? Who channel spiritual being, right? And they were able to actually speak and communicate with us, right? It was a fascinating interview. But they, what came out about during that discussion was that aging is a process of negative thinking and patterns, right? All of this is self-inflicted, and so they were claiming that you could basically reverse aging or slow it down considerably.
I think they went as far as to say you could reverse it.
You could reverse it,
I think, yeah.
So, it's interesting that a body that, a mind that's positive, a mind that doesn't put any kind of barriers or runs any kind of negative emotions or whatever, and is fully present and enjoying life. And I see these people, they look much younger than their years, oftentimes. And, that's just an alternative.
We start getting into the quantum physics discussion, and there's nothing physical here. So why do we have to age, except that, we're experiencing this in a physical way? It's just a program that's been agreed upon, apparently.
Yeah.
But
we find all these different scientific explanations for like how old we're going to be, like, if you've ever heard of like telomeres, like in terms of like the chromosomes that we have. So like we have 46 chromosomes as human beings, and we have what are called telomeres. And apparently the amount of telomeres that you have determines how long you would possibly live, like your longevity in life. And it was actually kind of interesting because I mentioned this because there was actually one study that was actually done with the help of a former professor that I had at school that had actually done a study on chiropractic and increasing telomere length. So it was kind of saying like, oh, could there be a possibility for this to actually have like a longer lifetime? More research is needed, but that's a start.
Yeah, there's a school of thought that it's not that big of a deal. We are going to get to it. It's just we need some technical tweaking. And as soon as our level of scientific studies and research, we're going to be finding that solution, and then it's going to be fun. Yeah, because that could be that is already a topic of many interesting books, right? What is happening after that happens?
Yeah, the politics and all of the crap that's going to come around that. If they can, they're going to start out with mice, right? And they'll make some mouse live for 40 years. And
I think that's already achieved.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think they were able to increase how many times a cell splits. So they determined what puts a limit on that amount of how many times a cell would split. And,
right.
And so they were able to isolate it and now try to turn it off.
Come on over to my house. You can see the goldfish my great-grandfather used to have. He's still hanging out.
But they found some rodent, I remember, that lives for like hundreds of years. They couldn't measure how many. I think by conducting some tests, they could tell that it was more than a human life. there wasn't enough time to determine exactly how long they lived. Right?
Right. I mean, we've
Because all the scientists died. He outlived all the scientists. And,
we've heard of like the Galapagos tortoises living for
right.
200, 300 years. I mean, it's not uncommon for that to happen. And then you've heard of like humpback whales, for example, like still having like the spear from like the times of like whaling had been there.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you really wonder about like why are there these characteristics that these different animals in the animal kingdom can actually live till these long periods of years? Because I mean, we think about like time as a construct, right?
Right.
Like time is something that like humans have figured out, and this was either determined by like how the sun was or how like the dead of winter would actually become before like those 3 days of like the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th. Oh, now we can actually start getting longer days again. We start having like the discussions about like the zeitgeist where they talk about how even like with like Jesus, like you have like the 3 days that pass. So like the three apostles. Then you also have like essentially the sun that comes back out. So like sun, S-U-N, S-O-N. So we talk about different kind of concepts that we use throughout the centuries to actually determine about like where our place was, not only in the universe, but like where our place was in that moment. And we needed to come up with some sort of like objective way to understand that too. Mm-hmm. Like, cause we all know that there's times where it's just like, oh, that 30 seconds felt like forever. Right. We've all survived that. Like I remember being in certain wrestling matches back in high school, and 2 minutes was a very long 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Getting pounded like the whole time. But yeah, just, I mean, we need to think about that in the regard of like how humans are now perceiving time, since we're able to do a lot more in the span of like a certain amount of time. Like, I mean, we all are communicating via like webcam right now, and this wouldn't even have been a possibility 20 years ago.
Yeah.
We'd have to get like special clearance at CIA in order to do this.
Well, I don't know. It's interesting because this technology, maybe not wireless, but this technology has been around for decades, for a long, long time. I remember as a kid going to the museum in Chicago, and they had a hall where it was a picture phone, and a telephone and a screen, and you could pick it up and talk to and see somebody on another one, the other side of the room.
Oh, yeah.
So why it never was spread to the public, I don't know. But maybe I'm going to assume it's always seems to be money,
Well, yeah, I mean, like you think about it, like the rich have to get like those kind of things first, and then if it works for them, then it can actually trickle down, and like the rest of us can actually enjoy it as well.
Yeah, but it's always, it's like, why don't we have electric car? Why haven't we had electric cars for 50 years? Because they've been around. Right. Why are we still driving gasoline cars? Well, it's all about the money that the oil companies and the auto manufacturers,
it's always
their power and stuff. So I think that all this stuff really comes down to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that goes with any type of profession or category. I mean, even chiropractors, we've been suppressed for like the last 100 years because of the AMA. And we even won like a lawsuit against them that was an antitrust suit that went to the court. It's called the Wilk lawsuit.
Right. That was fascinating. My chiropractor was actually talking about that. That was for a long time. It was going through some major challenges. Right. You were talking about applied kinesiology, right?
Yes.
Is that something that we inherited from the Eastern medical practices, or is that something that was kind of like a modern invention?
So it originally developed out of a current chiropractic technique called sacro-occipital technique. And this technique was actually developed by this man. His name is Major Bertrand Desjardins, and he's actually based in Nebraska. He was actually a DO, an osteopath, who went to chiropractic school and then started actually learning about this whole mechanism with your body's what's called CSF, or cerebral spinal fluid, and how it affected just not only your breathing, but just every part of your body's physiology and how it performs. And he was actually so brilliant that he had actually come up with one of the first like color filters for Kodak, and back when he originally had sold the patent for that, it was like $3 million, which is a lot of money. So he actually got to have like a whole research-based practice because of this. Now we fast forward to about 1960s. We have this one man, Dr. George Goodhart, who was actually the founder of applied kinesiology, former pilot in World War II. He was also a chiropractor. And he started noticing different types of muscle tests that he could correlate not only with like spinal segments, but also with visceral organs as well. And he actually based his muscle testing based on a book that was actually written by physical therapists. I'd have to get the name. I gotta look back at that. But he started adding different components every single year to finding this technique. And he had thousands of notes in terms of what he found about how there could be a part like on the inner part of your ankle that would actually help relieve like a pain behind the eye. Or he'd find out about how somebody's nutrition regarding them actually just chewing food would make a big difference if they had like an ostomy bag, for example, and instead of just like taking like just liquids. Mm-hmm. So he was brilliant in regard of like actually finding all these things out. Now, to answer your question originally, he did actually incorporate the acupuncture meridian system within the care basis of how actually you can treat an individual patient. And the way that I kind of look at the acupuncture meridian basis is like it's a second nervous system. And we're taking this information that's been known maybe the last 3,500, maybe 7,000 years of like traditional Chinese medicine and Oriental practices. And they knew about how to correlate everything in the body with just qi, like your body's natural energy. Mm-hmm. And how if qi wasn't flowing correctly in a certain pattern, this could affect the entire organism, how the human acts. And when Dr. Goodhart came up with his whole applied kinesiology method and incorporated different aspects, when he incorporated that aspect, I think that opened up a world of possibility as to what we can find out and help people like essentially recover properly from. And when I first heard about acupuncture regarding like the first module I took of applied kinesiology studies, I was fascinated. I was beyond fascinated just in regards to just like, I'm like, so wait, you're saying if I have like a low back pain, this could actually be something that I rub right here that could actually help? Like, get out of here. That doesn't make any sense. But then you start making the patterns and connections, and it's like, oh, okay, I get that. And then on top of just all of that, the Eastern philosophy is also much about the prevention aspect too, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm a big proponent of that because prevention is so much cheaper than treatment. Like, I think I read the study one time that the majority of people will spend the most amount of money on their own health in the last few years of their life. Mm-hmm. And I mean, to me, like, what would you think about spending so much money on at a gross sum at like one point in time or whatever? Think about how you could spread that along and invest properly and actually have like a good retirement savings fund for yourself that you can constantly go at. Because if you're spending all that money, like just to keep yourself alive at one point, imagine how much you could have done like in the earlier part of your life to actually maintain that quality that you want to maintain. Am I right? I mean,
yep. Yeah. That's always been the tough sell for insurance salesmen. You know, is getting when you're young, you just can't get your mind around that stuff.
We're not thinking about that stuff. Like, I'm only 42 years old, and I never thought about like the past events and stuff like that and where I'd be heading to, like really up until I got to be 30. Because then when I got to be 30, I looked back and I was like, okay, so I've been here maybe like a third of my life so far. I'm aiming for 100, like FYI. So when I thought about like the last 30 years, I'm like, okay, I accomplished a decent amount of this time. Like, how can I learn from these experiences as I go into like this next chapter? So like, I mean, like I started that chapter pretty quick. Like I became 30. I got like my first real job. That was a career job. I got married. I just was going about my life in regards to just like building up that original business. So, I mean, these are all new experiences to me, but as we again talk about things becoming cyclical, like I'm really learning about like the past mistakes I've made to try and help me going forward. And I'm sure by the time I get to be like 60, I'm going to have a completely different perspective than I have now.
Oh yeah.
But I was trying to be conscious about the things I do now. Because at least
I think you're unusual in that aspect, though. I think most people don't start getting, introspective and stuff until
after 40.
Probably more like 50.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was an interesting child. Like when I graduated high school, I actually wrote like a 10-year plan for myself.
Yeah. See, most people is like, I don't know, it's too much work. I don't. 10-year plans. I'll just be 10 years older. That's all.
It took me like 11 and a half, 12, but I'll take that. That's okay.
Yeah.
But I was pretty happy with that. I mean, I was just like, yeah, I'm like getting to college, like get a girlfriend, like graduate from college. Like it was just like little things here and there that were important at the time. Like we look back on that stuff now, we're just like, oh, whatever. But I mean, at that time, it's important. It's how your emotional reality is viewing that moment.
Yep.
So if you were not a chiropractor, what other career would you attempt? Do you think?
Well, I tried so many things that I really thought that I would be. I mean, I still loved personal training. Like I loved being able to have that just one-on-one interaction with people and really helping them like functionally get better. So I could see myself doing that, and I'm always going to do that in some sort of way. But other than that, I mean, like my brother wanted to get into the entertainment business so much. And
I was just about to say, he could be a stand-up comedian, I swear.
But my brother...
He's got such presence, right?
My brother does a lot of hosting right now. So he'll get on like a lot of morning shows throughout the country. He's been on Wendy Williams a couple times. And he's done amazing. I mean, like the kid is only getting better as he goes along with age. And he's getting to be a lot more like fluent with his words, and he's got the emotions down. He knows how to work the crowd well. And my brother and I just always did that back and forth with each other. And like I did some drama classes back in high school, and I always loved it. But like I was like, nah, that's a pipe dream. I could never do that. So like I thought to myself, like, okay, well, I'll go with the sciences. Like there's always gonna be a job in that. That's cool. But I mean, at least like with chiropractic, it allows me to kind of like mend and mix all that, and I can kind of be my goofy self and be able to be professional at the same time. Because I mean, people identify with humor. People identify with like the personal failures that you have that you learn from. Like for example, like I grew up with learning disabilities, and I needed a little more extra help than a lot of other kids in school did. And for myself, like I knew that I was going to have to work like twice as hard just to learn the same amount of material so that I could like really absorb it. Because I felt that teachers would just move through material really quickly, and I would just be still on step 2 when everybody else is on step 4. And I just got lost a lot. But I knew that if I could get into like a place and an environment that I could be one-on-one with a person, really have them trying to understand where I'm coming from, really build that rapport, empathy, and then work on the assessment and development of that character that we work on, that was where my purpose was going to be for whatever I decided to do. So to answer your question, like, yeah, probably an actor.
Yeah.
You didn't have a learning disability, by the way.
I mean, it was...
No, it was... You were a different kid. You were just a different kid. Yeah.
It was like...
I mean, it's very unusual. Actually, it's not typical at all that, kids follow and execute, and keep on task, and focused or whatever. Most of us are, well, at least I identify with your experience completely. I was just the same. I was like, how are they able to, why are they even interested in following this? I would just go daydreaming about something, whatever.
Nobody wants to see me.
What's big? And I kind of knew that I could always go and read about this in the textbook. So, why do I want to overwork now?
We're still worried about Gabby. What's he doing now? Why is he in the corner like that?
Even when we come out of school, the way we talk to patients, like as doctors, and I mean, I'm guilty of this. My wife is definitely guilty of this, because we have to take some sort of information that we know that we can talk with other doctors about, but we have to like really funnel that down into a way that patients understand.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the biggest communication issues I've learned in just the small amount of time that I have been practicing. And I remember even having like a webcam conversation with my brother, and my wife was trying to explain like some sort of like chemical reaction in food that my brother deals with. And I'm just like watching her like talk to him. And I turned to him like, did you get all that? He's like, not at all.
Yeah. Well, chiropractors are much better about that than a lot of other types of doctors, the more traditional doctors, right? Because they're talking, they'll give you the clinical names for stuff, Well, you got a broken arm. Well, they're not going to use the term broken arm. You've got a fracture of your whatever. And people are like, what?
Right.
But that I think that's taught, actually.
It's more for documentation, just so like everybody has a proper communication line regarding of what the patient's been dealing with. That's why, the first part of anatomy, all you're learning is just positions, like sagittal plane, frontal plane, transverse, horizontal plane, because that deals with the foundation of everything else you're going to need to know from there.
Mm-hmm.
You have anterior, posterior, proximal, distal, midline. All these aspects of like how something's oriented, and then you start getting into the jargon of like, oh, there's a contusion, there's a bruise, there's a abrasion, there's a fracture. There's a laceration. And I was just talking about like just one part of the arm.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not even talking about like the actual specific part that I was mentioning, because there's over 600 muscles in the human body, so that could mean so many different aspects about relating to what the condition present with somebody is.
Yeah. But my point was just that my understanding is that the medical profession teaches doctors they basically teach them not to, what do I want to say? They basically teach them to maintain this status above the patient. Right, it's sort of this where the God complex comes out of, that kind of thing.
Yes,
right? They talk down to their patients versus just communicating with them like they're other people.
Right, right, and
chiropractors are much better about that.
Because we all are people. I'm a person, you're a person. Like I just happen to like have specialized in this, and you decided what you felt was your purpose in life. There's nothing that I have to feel like superior about. We're all different. Every single person I see is different.
Right.
And every single person I see, like I treat differently because we are different. But we are brought up in a very standardized system.
Yeah.
Whether it be public schools, whether it be the tests that we take of standardized tests, or whether it be you have to fall into this grade category and we classify you as that. So that goes into a whole nother realm as well, if we think about how we develop as people too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not gonna let Gabi go there right now.
How's your new practice of actually coming to your patient on wheels? What kind of response are you seeing? Do people find this kind of option attractive to them?
Oh, absolutely. I have a lot of patients people who've experienced I've had a lot of people who have said that this is definitely a service that they have an interest in. Mm-hmm. Because it's a very new and esoteric service. I'm trying more right now in like the infancy, because I've only had this business for about like the last 2.5 months that I've been getting started with it.
Okay.
I'm getting a really good response from people saying like, oh, what do you do? Oh, I'm a concierge chiropractor. I do house calls. And they'll say to me, they're like, oh, that's a really good idea.
And you have the table inside a van, right? Or how does that work?
I take my portable table right outside my car.
So they don't go inside the van. You come out, right? I was just thinking.
No, I'm super glad to see.
It was like an office on wheels kind of thing. Yeah.
Right. I've seen those before. At the moment, I just take a portable table that I have in my vehicle, and wherever they want me to meet them, like office, business, hotel, sport, performance venue, like even just basic like break room setting. So I have everything within my car, whether it be just like examination materials for like blood pressure or like reflex tools. I have a couple of different nutritional products that I would actually take with me if I needed to do nutritional testing to help out with patients. And then everything else comes from just here and here, because like the profession in chiropractic, the little definition means to fix by hand.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make sure that I came out as a black belt in adjusting skills from school. If there's anything I could come out with, it was just be a good adjuster, know what you're doing, and then from there you can learn everything else. And there's infinite number of things that we can learn. Yeah. I'm always learning.
Cool.
Awesome. Yeah.
All right, guys, I think we're kind of there.
Okay.
The end of the. Adam, before we cut out here, let's give everybody out there, how do they reach you, online, offline? Let's give us the rundown.
So my business is called SoCal Concierge Chiropractic. You can reach it at socalconciergechiropractic.com. I'm also under Adam McBride, the letters DC, or at Adam McBride DC on Instagram and Facebook. And I'm always posting new content. I always try and post new videos to either explain a patient case study or to give you some at-home tips or do it yourself. And I need to keep updating my blog, which is on the website as well. But yeah, if you have any interest of doing house call mobile chiropractic services, call me up.
And where are you located?
I'm located in the San Diego County area. So I'm located in Mira Mesa, and I service the county of San Diego within 30 miles.
Yeah. Just in case somebody's calling from Utah.
Of course, yeah.
Come on over.
Yeah, I'm doing pay for flight, and it's different.
All right, great. Well, listen, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
And we'll include the links to all that stuff on the show notes when that's ready. And glad to have you. Glad we got it done. And I'll see you again.
That sounds great, Tim. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you, Adam.
Hey, thank you very
Good
much.
luck.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Hi, this is Tim Starr. Thanks for joining me and Gabi on the universe between your ears. We really appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us for a little while. And we'd like to see you again. So be sure to subscribe wherever it is you're consuming the podcast from, whether it's YouTube or Stitcher or iTunes or whatever the hell else is out there. We want to see you again. We also want to hear from you. So let us know what you think of each episode. Let us know if you got an idea for a future episode that you think would be just killer. Absolutely, let us know. All right? Thanks again, and we will see you next time around. Bye-bye.